Hello, my name is Ashley Frost, and I will be the moderator of tonight's debates. Welcome, candidates. Let's go over the rules. You will each get 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, and then we will proceed with the questions. For each question, you will have 1 minute and 30 seconds. You will each have the opportunity for 1 rebuttal for 1 minute and 30 seconds. Then 2 minutes for closing statements. Thank you. Let's get started.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Kim Stokes, and I want to thank the NAPC for giving me this chance to speak directly to my Lake Worth neighbors. And I want to let you know that I'm deeply committed to serving this city. My dad grew up on M Street, and I live just a few blocks away from there now in a home that I've owned for 10 years. He went to Lake Worth High School, and so did I. And I felt very honored to be able to return back to my home and teach at Lake Worth High School after receiving a degree in math from the University of Florida. And while teaching, I dedicated most of my time and energy to serving the students of Lake Worth High School. I coached cheerleading for 3 years. I was a class sponsor. I revived the Math Honor Society, and I started a triathlon club for students who didn't want to compete in high school level sports. I also launched the school's first AP Calculus BC program. And while doing all of maintaining my current course load and these additional responsibilities, I also went to school at night and got my master's in curriculum instruction from FAU. I plan on bringing the same dedication and passion to City Hall. Although I'm no longer in the classroom, I'm still very passionate about community engagement and education. And that is why I'm running. When I tried to get more involved in local politics, I found that it was very hard to have your voice heard and respected by the current commission, and I want to change that. I am also a mother of 2 young girls and would like to see more recreational activities geared towards children. And of course, public safety is a huge concern of mine, especially speeding along the roads as I walk my daughters to school. I believe that these goals are attainable, but only if we create a system of transparency and accountability. That means we need to have clear goals with measurable outcomes, and we have to have a formal review process to make sure that we are meeting these goals. Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
My name is Drew Martin. I served for 8 years on the Palm Beach County Soil and Water Conservation District, a nonpartisan board where I served as both the treasurer and later as the vice chair. And as someone who's worked on a nonpartisan board, I feel that experience would be very helpful here in Lake Worth. I also served on the Lake Worth Tree Board, and I served on the Lake Worth Library Board. I was also a member of the Lake Worth Climate Change Task Force when Lake Worth Beach signed the Mayor's Convention on Climate Change. While serving on that task force, we wrote a number of recommendations for Lake Worth Beach and the way that Lake Worth could meet the challenges of climate change. As a longtime environmental activist and someone who cares about the environment, I'm very concerned about Lake Worth and our environment here. I think that the city needs to focus on completing projects rather than starting new projects before existing projects are completed. In particular, the pool at the beach was a very nice working pool when I moved here 22 years ago. Today, that pool is not functional, and it is a drawback to the beach, making the beach property look shabby because it's a blocked off area that no one can use. I would also like to see the Gulfstream Hotel renovated and completed. I think having a vacant hotel near the downtown is damaging the city's brand. I am very concerned about public safety, but particularly I am concerned that there is fair treatment of all citizens. I would like to see us work on the litter problem because I think litter reduces the cleanliness of the city and takes away from the city's brand. Drew Martin, running for District 3. Thank you.
Okay, the first question will go to Ms. Stokes. The city of Lake Worth Beach seems to be funding the CRA without the CRA reciprocating by providing transparency into their planning and operations. This makes the taxpayer wonder whether the city is a good steward of how our tax dollars are being spent by the CRA. How would you correct the current relationship between Lake Worth Beach and the CRA?
Well, I do think that I want to start off by saying I think that the CRA is doing some good work in our community. And I've heard a lot of great things about the CRA from people in the artist lofts who've worked with them, and the customer service and their willingness to help has been commended. But I do think part of the problem with the CRA is that the city lacks a vision for what they want to see happening with development. So it does appear that the CRA can put out these open RFPs, and then the developer is who gets to come in and decide what the city needs and what the look and feel of the projects coming to the city will be. So I think what the city needs to do is they need to get on the same page with input from the residents and find out what are our goals for the downtown corridor, what are our goals for Dixie Highway and other thoroughfares. And then we can make sure that the CRA understands what the residents and what the city wants, and then it's their obligation to carry out those responsibilities. That's it.
Would you like for me to repeat the question?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. The city of Lake Worth Beach seems to be funding the CRA without the CRA reciprocating by providing transparency into their planning and operations. This makes the taxpayer wonder whether the city is a good steward of how our tax dollars are being spent by the CRA. How would you correct the current relationship between the city of Lake Worth Beach and the CRA?
Well, first of all, the CRA should be a temporary organization. The CRA originally did accomplish some good things, and everything the CRA has done, the city can keep. But the reality is that there comes a time when we need to no longer have a CRA. Now, that may not be right away. It may take time. But the reality is right now, the CRA is not functioning properly. It's not transparent. The board is aloof and not interested in what the public thinks. Losing $1 million on a property transfer to a developer is not the good stewardship of the city's funds. I would first of all like to see the City Commission take over the CRA board. I would then like to have a moratorium on CRA projects. I believe ultimately that the CRA draws too much money out of the general fund. The reason is all improvements to the CRA district, which is a significant part of the city, go to fund the CRA. So the CRA is in a sense a duplicate agency within the city. Ultimately, I don't think the city can afford to lose all this revenue that cannot go to fund public safety like police and fire. Ultimately, we need to move the CRA or remove it, and so that the city can maintain those funds for the general revenue. Thank you.
Okay. We will start the next question with Mr. Martin. More than 51% of our city's budget goes to PBSO. Yet the numbers on crime seem to remain the same. How would you work with PBSO to ensure Lake Worth Beach residents are getting what they pay for?
Well, this goes back in a sense to the CRA taking so much money. There's less money to fund PBSO, but the reality is the PBSO budget cannot continue to increase. Now, I saw the possibility in other parts of the country where they have what are called policing units that don't carry weapons and don't carry mace to handle non-violent 911 calls. This would reduce the pressure on PBSO. I would do away with the downtown camera system, which takes $1 million. I think then we need to work creatively with PBSO to find ways to keep the budget where it is. I don't think we can reduce the PBSO budget, but we cannot continue to grow it. I think we need to maintain the existing contract as it is.
Ms. Stokes?
Yes, I think that public safety is a huge concern, and I think too much responsibility falls on the sheriff's department. I think we need to be able to look at their budget from an objective point of view and see how they're spending their money. For example, how much are we spending, if anything at all, for the helicopters that are expensive to run, that are constantly flying over the city? And what results does that get us? I want to see measurable outcomes so we know how effective our resources are being used. I also think that we need to partner with the county, and we also need to partner with other services like the Lord's Place that can help us tackle crime, help us tackle issues like homelessness that are not a crime, that are falling onto the police's lap. The sheriff should not be responsible for dealing with our homeless population, but we have no alternative. So we absolutely need to find ways to fund and encourage partnerships with organizations that can help us address these social issues that should not be in the hands of the police, like homelessness and addiction. We have people who are addicted to drugs that want to get help, and there is nowhere for them to go. The county has, I believe, one free facility in Delray, and if somebody wants to get clean, they need to be able to get in a bed that day. They cannot be told to go back onto the streets and return the next day, because once they make that decision, we need to have the help available to them.
Okay, we will start the next question with Ms. Stokes. The city charter has not been fully reviewed in almost a half century. In the last year, there have been several recommendations to conduct a citizen review of the charter and to report status and findings to the Lake Worth Beach commissioners and mayor. However, it appears that these recommendations are being ignored. What is your opinion of conducting a formal charter review?
I think we should have a formal charter review, and we should do it on a regular basis, according to what most cities do in this country. I have been following this issue pretty closely. I know that Commissioner Robinson has been asking for this repeatedly from the commission, and like usual, the majority ignores the minority and have refused to put a formal review together. Then a group of citizens decided to take it upon themselves to go ahead and conduct a formal review, and they were going to get items on the ballot through petition or whatever means necessary. This prompted the city to all of a sudden now want to form their own committee to review the charter. I think it's very important because we have a lot of voting issues in this city that I'm not sure I agree with. I know a lot of people are talking about term limits because, as we can see, when people are in there for too long, they stop listening to the residents, and we need to take term limits into consideration. It also seems unfair that everybody in the city gets to vote for every district. So it can lead to situations where one district is underrepresented because other districts are voting for their representation. We also need to look at how appointments are made and how a vice mayor who is not elected by the city residents may have more pull in how many appointments are made to these boards. So we absolutely need to do a thorough charter review. I wish the city would have listened earlier.
I agree with Ms. Stokes that we need to have a charter review, and with Commissioner Herman Robinson. There are some things in the charter that I think are important to keep. One is that we want to keep the beach as a public beach. So I would be concerned if we opened up the charter and we started making a lot of changes, because the charter was established over many years. As far as term limits go, I agree. People have served on the commission for too long. And normally, people would make the choice to move on. But as we can see now, people are not making that choice. And as a result, the commission and the mayor have become a club that basically are no longer listening to the city. I also agree on appointments. I served on the library board and I served on the tree board. And I think that it's important that people who want to serve can serve, and it's not just a reward to the friends of the commissioners and the mayor. I think it's important that we look at all the different things going on in the city to make sure the charter matches the city. As we know, times change. And so we need a modern charter that meets the needs of the city. But I would not want to change all the things that the charter has without the citizens really being aware of what's going on. I would appoint a commission to review the charter and allow people to participate who want to participate, not just people who are friends with the commissioners and the mayors.
Okay, we will begin the next question with you, Mr. Martin. With Palm Beach County single-family home prices increasing 12.4% year after year, and the median home price being over $355,000, many families have had great gains in their investment. In certain areas in our city, homeowners are experiencing less than half that due to slumlord tactics and under-policing. What policies would you implement to help increase home prices in Lake Worth Beach?
Well, I think we have to be sensitive to the fact that home prices going up also eliminates the homes for a lot of people. And we know with the COVID crisis, we have a problem with homelessness. I'm concerned about the removal of the cottages downtown, which could have provided housing for people. I think that the city should not try to control the market. I believe the market will continue to go up. I think removing litter from our streets is one thing that would really improve home prices. I also think that better policing would make a difference. But overall, I think the city home prices have gone up at about the right rate. I don't think that people who want to live in the city for a long period of time want their property taxes going up because their property value goes up. So not everyone wants to see home prices go up. I think we want a stable environment in Lake Worth where people can move here and live here, not just people who want to come here, buy a house and flip it. So while I like the idea that home prices are rising, I don't think it's the city's focus to make property values go up or down. I think Lake Worth Beach will remain a very positive place for people to live, particularly if we can keep the environment clean. I think we have to focus on climate change because I think large hurricanes could affect property values. And I also think that we want to have canopy trees that help the homeowners to have shade in the summer.
Hi, yes, I agree with Mr. Martin, and I think that we have to be delicate in the way we approach our conversations about property values. I think a larger conversation needs to be had about housing in this city in general. We are seeing with the CRA a lot of new development happen, and mostly, from what I can tell, a lot of condos and rental apartments. And I question if this is really the kind of housing that our city needs. We need to do an inventory and a survey of needs so we can best recruit development that will actually improve the lives of our residents. I also think that relying on development to increase property values is a little bit narrow-minded. I believe our energy and focus should go into improving the neighborhoods and the lives of the people who chose Lake Worth as their home, and go into those neighborhoods and help them with more programs that they can help repaint their houses, they can help do repairs, they can make improvements for efficiency, because I know a lot of concern is how high our utility bills are here in Lake Worth. And the commission will tell you that they've lowered the rates, but when you go out and talk to people, they still have very high bills. And I've talked to people who said they want to move out of the city because they can't afford their bills. And I'm looking at their home as I'm talking to them, and they're leaking air conditioning. They don't have insulation, they don't have new windows. And if we could have programs and put more energy on improving the lives and efficiency of the homes and homeowners that are already here, people will want to move to this city. People love this city. And I'm not sure why the property values are not going up.
Okay, we will begin the next question with you, Ms. Stokes. With all the new interest from developers in our city and new development projects from the city, as well as having a federally recognized hub zone area here in Lake Worth Beach, would you be for or against developing a local Lake Worth Beach resident-only SBE participation program for all new development?
I'm sorry, can you clarify what that, I'm not familiar with that program.
Sure. Hub zone, historically underutilized business zones, and SBE, the Small Business Enterprise, SBE participation program, the Small Enterprise Participation Program.
Okay, well, I apologize for not being familiar with that program, but I do think that we need to have some sort of structure for small businesses to participate in. I believe we used to have a chamber of commerce that has moved out of the city and we no longer have access to. I've talked to a lot of small business owners, and they're very eager to have collaboration and to help plan and coordinate events and things to bring people into the city and to purchase from their small businesses. They just don't see the avenue right now for being able to bring people together and to have a good dialogue with the city and a good partnership with the city. So I do think that we need to have some sort of organization that the businesses can belong to so that we can help support each other. I also think we need to be very careful about the kind of development we have and We need to make sure that there aren't incentives for developers coming in here, buying up properties and sitting on empty storefronts. So I do think the city needs to look into something like a vacancy tax or some way to discourage all these empty storefronts that we see to help small businesses be able to thrive in the city and afford their rent.
Mr. Martin?
I would support an SBE program from the Small Business Administration that helps small businesses. I think this would be an alternative to what we have now, which is the CRA, which can only fund small businesses in the CRA district. I think it would be helpful. However, we have to understand that there's a limited amount of business that can productively be done in a town of our size. If we create more and more storefronts, it just puts other storefronts out of business and other businesses out of business. When I came to Lake Worth Beach originally, the downtown had a lot of businesses that they had things like clothing store, which I know there are clothing stores now, but they were more of a clothing store for the general public. They had a shoe store, they had a stationery store. And I would like to see the type of stores that people can use so they don't have to travel outside the city. I would also we had at one point a very nice organic grocery store. And I think that those are the kind of things that I would like to see the city have. I think it's important that the city focus on different types of businesses so that different types of businesses can come into the city. I would also like to see us try to get people to walk so that businesses get more business. The more people get out of their cars and walk around the business districts, the more likely they are to shop and to purchase things. So I would encourage that walkability of the city.
Okay, we will begin the last question with you, Mr. Martin. What should be done about the pool at the beach, and do you support a public-private partnership?
Well, the pool at the beach should have been fixed, and there was no excuse for it not to be fixed. There was a few problems with the pool. The construction project created some cracks in the pool, and the locker rooms needed to be redone. When we redid the casino, the locker rooms should have been done. And so I support renovating and reestablishing the pool. When I came here, the pool was beautiful, and a lot of families were using it. They had swim events up there, where I remember one time they had a large number of people who went up there for a swim event. I also think it's important to have a working pool because there are times when the ocean's not really safe to swim, when there's a lot of jellyfish, when there's rip currents. So I think we need a pool for the families that can come and use it. And I ride a bicycle to the beach, and I think that a lot of people could ride bicycles, and that would keep the price of utilizing the pool down. I would like to see also a rate for the citizens of the city. But I think the pool absolutely needs to be recreated and renovated so that we have a pool. I also would like to see the pool set up so that people can sit by the pool at some sort of a tiki bar and watch the sunset. That's something that would attract people to the beach. I think that having an ability to look out the backside of the casino and the other venues there could also have ways for people to look out and see the pool and see the sunset. Right now, without a working pool, it makes the casino look derelict and unfinished.
Ms.
Can you
Stokes?
repeat the question?
Sure. What should be done about the pool at the beach, and do you support a public-private partnership?
Okay, thank you. I definitely think that we need to keep a pool at the beach, and everybody that I've been talking to out knocking on doors is in favor of keeping the pool and renovating it and getting it in working condition with some improvements. I don't know what kind of public partnerships are being talked about right now. I think we need to keep the pool in control of the city. So anything that's going to take too much control away from the city or too much revenue away from the city, I would probably be against. I do agree with Mr. Martin. We need to have some sort of snack bar or tiki bar at the pool, which could help generate revenue for the city. When I was going to the beach as a kid, my dad could send me to Lake Worth Beach for $10, and I could go to Benny's and I could walk up to the snack bar and get chicken strips and a soda, and I was good to go. But right now, our beach is, Benny's has become more of an upscale restaurant, and we're seeing that with the new restaurant as well. So I feel like the beach is becoming less family friendly and kid friendly. So I would like to make sure that as we're designing the pool, we're taking into consideration the needs of the families that go there as well. And my daughter took swim lessons there, and I think it's great to partner with other people or other organizations to run services like swim lessons or water aerobics out of the pool.
Okay, we will now begin the closing statements. You will have 2 minutes, and we will begin with Ms. Stokes. Ms. Stokes?
Okay. I want to thank you all for providing this open debate because I think it's a very important part of our democracy to have open dialogue, and I want to continue that as an elected official. So I do want to make sure that the city becomes more responsive to the citizens' needs. I think we need to change the way we interact with our residents. I want to have at least 4 to 6 town halls a year where we can have honest conversations and back and forth. Right now, there's a lot of one-way conversations where we submit a public comment, it can easily be ignored, and then they get to respond however they want up on the dais. So I really appreciate this and look forward to continuing this open kind of dialogue. I also think that we need to focus on transparency and accountability and make sure that we are, that everybody has an easy way of finding out what's going on in this city. And we can use that to make good decisions. We can't accept things the way they are, and we can't figure out what to change without the information and the data. So I look forward to serving this city, and I'm asking for your vote to serve as the city commissioner for District 3. I would love to hear from all of the residents in the city about what we can do to make your lives better. So please reach out to Kim Stokes for lwb.com to arrange a way of communicating.
Mr. Martin?
I want to thank the Neighborhood Association for providing the opportunity for us to have this debate. I want to thank my opponent for taking the time to come and share with me this opportunity. I think the city current administration has become tone deaf to the needs of the city, and I particularly am talking about the CRA. I'm very concerned about the removal of the historic cottages downtown, which have branded the city. And I grew up in San Francisco, and we had beautiful Victorian houses. And there was a time when people wanted to tear those houses down and replace them with modern structures. Had they done that, they would have ruined the quality of San Francisco. And I believe the same thing is happening here with the removal of the historic cottages from the downtown. I think the Gulfstream Hotel needs to be renovated. And if the city has funds, it should go to that first and not to additional building in the CRA district. I think the CRA district needs ultimately to be removed so that the revenues for the CRA district can go to the city's general fund where it's needed. We need to work with the sheriff department to make it more efficient. I absolutely agree. But the point is, we cannot have the sheriff department eating up so much of the city budget year after year after year. It needs to be efficient. And we know that there's going to be $7 million in pension expenses coming up, which is going to go into the city general fund and cause a deficit. I think that the pool needs to be renovated so that the beach is a classy place like it's always been. And the beach casino was always what attracted people to Lake Worth. I also would like to see the golf course renovated so that there's more native trees there. And I think it's important that we continue to have mangroves along the coastline to capture the nutrients so that we don't end up with serious algal blooms in the water there, and toxic algal blooms, and potentially even worse. So we need to continue to move forward. Drew A. Martin, lakeworth.com. Thank you.
All right, that was painless.
You can shoot your introduction.
Sure.